Where would you say that home for you is right now?
Right. So home for me right now is uptown Charlotte,
Okay.
in an apartment, and my daughter is living with me.
Okay, cool. And where you have, like, how long have you been in Charlotte? Have you always been in Charlotte? Where were you born?
Great question. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. I was born and raised there. When I was going into my last year of high school, my father came home one day from work and said, "How would you like to move to Paris?" And so I moved from Newark, New Jersey to Paris, France, starting in between my junior and senior years of high school, which was an amazing experience. And my parents, being the parents they are, put me in an international school, not the American school. And so that was just like a whole part of my life that just opened up me into even what I'm doing now. So after I finished high school, I didn't quite have enough French to do university, so I went back to the U.S., came back to the U.S., did university in Pennsylvania, and then I moved back to Jersey, and I worked with AT&T for like the first part of my career. And so I was there for another 10 years until I met my soon-to-be husband, and then moved to Charlotte right before I had my kids. And my kids are now 24 and 18.
Okay, cool.
So yes, I've been here for quite a while.
Yeah. That's cool. So how can you describe your experience, like, in the last 2 years within the COVID-19 pandemic specifically?
Right. So from the start of it, like when I first...
like what you can say, like, first, like, what you remember about the early days and like when we
Yes.
first went into lockdown.
Yes.
What you remember?
Yes. So at that time, my daughter was in college and she was in Florida, and being that we do study abroad, we were kind of aware of the fact that the COVID was moving. It had been in Asia, China, and that, we kind of slowly saw it march. And when it started to get to Europe, we realized that we were going to have to get our students, our Queen students, out that were on semester abroad.
Right.
So that was kind of like the first kind of real introduction where I was immediately impacted by it. And so that was quite a journey for the students, because literally we were working with our partners, and it became, after a little while, it became clear, like when I say wow, like a few weeks, it probably took a few weeks from the time where it was like, okay, the numbers are rising too high. Yeah. In addition to that, we had students who had come here, a couple of them like from Italy, and so one of them in particular, I remember, wanted to go home for spring break, and we warned her. We said, if you go home, that's fine, obviously we'll support you, but you may not be able to get back because we just don't know what's going to happen. And so as it turned out, she was not able to get back, and we ended up having to basically kind of extract everybody from all over. We had students in Asia, we had students in Europe, we had students, in the UK. We didn't have anybody in South America at that point, but we had them in several continents. So that was my immediate mission, to get them out and to get them, find them, locate them. Some of them were, because again, they were on spring break, so some of them were traveling, so we did really kind of locate them and then get flights. I'm working with a travel agent, trying to get them out as quickly as possible. Parents are calling, so that was kind of my first thought. And then after, like, as I was dealing with this, we were not, it was coming here, but at that point we didn't know when or how. And, it started obviously on the West Coast when, that cruise ship came in. And then as it started to, become clear that it was going to be something we were all going to be dealing with, and have to really just practically figure out what's the best move. And everybody's deciding this, in terms of your own personal life. My daughter at the time was in Florida, so I was thinking, okay, I need to go and extract her, because as it started to move over and became clear that it was going to be nationwide, I was basically like, okay, they hadn't made the announcement yet. But I made the decision. Things were moving so quickly that I had told my manager, I am going to go down to Florida, even before, in the week that I went down, like the next day, they made the call that they were going to shut down the school. So, and I remember just feeling really like nervous about it, because it was just so, like, I think a lot of people outside of like where in international education who had kind of had a preview were not as concerned. You know, they were kind of like, you know, oh, you know, because I immediately started wearing masks. You know, when I was probably in Florida, I was like the only one. And I was trying to tell my kids to, you know, we need to keep distance. At that point, it was like, stay 6 feet and, you know, try not to talk directly. So I remember just being very guarded, and initially just on a physical level, because I was trying to, you know, do what I could to protect myself and my family.
Right, that's crazy. Especially because I forgot that, like, obviously you'd be directly impacted with the international office. So just for context, can you explain like what you do for work like now?
Sure. So I am the assistant director of international programs and partnerships. So at that time I was managing that, as well as like our international student services. So the study abroad side, as well as the students who arrive here and study here, whether it's exchange or they're doing a full program, undergraduate master's program.
Cool.
So yeah. And now I really focus on the study abroad and partnerships, our exchange partners and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
that was the beginning. So I didn't know you wanted me to continue. So as it became, you know, once, you know, by that time, obviously Queens is closing down. Everybody was starting to close down. And just, you know, you didn't really know what was going to happen. It was just like, okay, you know, you're going to work from home, and, you know, until we, you know what the status is going to be as far as, you know, short term and then long term. So that was it was interesting, because, you know, all of a sudden we were back all together as a family unit. At that time, I was married with my son, who was in high school, my daughter who had just come home from college, and we were living in Matthews in a, you know, nice, beautiful home in the community. And so we, you know, it was interesting, because I think we first were kind of like not sure how we were going to manage with everybody being home, including my husband, who he just was never home. I mean, because he works and so in a practice, and so he was never ever working from home. I would work from home occasionally, but and then my kids being home, and then they had to, you know, go online and so forth. So it was at first, it was like, okay, we got to all figure out our schedules and, you know, that kind of thing. And then, you know, I think after we kind of adjusted to it, I think the other thing that we really wanted to do is just make sure we had enough food. And, you know, remember there was the raid on toilet paper and water, and, you know, there were a lot of things that, you know, we just wanted to get supplies. And so we did, you know, go to Costco and, you know, where, you know, the grocery stores, to make sure that we could at least feel like we had a comfortable amount that we could cook and didn't have to go out every day or every other day or whatever. So yeah, and then I think we just started to, you know, do things as a family. I think one of the best things that we ended up doing was we all had bikes, and we never, you know, it was like they were just collecting dust in the garage. But we lived near a lot of the different trails and parks, and so we started riding every day, or like maybe not every day, but maybe a couple of days a week, and we would just go and you know, just kind of ride, and it was a way to get fresh air and you know, just, you know, be outdoors, and it was nice. So that was later on.
Do you think that kind of leads into my next question? Do you think that friendships and family relationships kind of changed because of the pandemic, and how do you think those have changed? Good question.
So I know that my brother and I got really close. I mean, we you know, would talk on a regular basis, but I mean, he would call me every day. You know, there's like, you know, did you see this about, you know, what this news article, or concern about this, concern about that, and, you know, we got to make sure we, you know, find out what's going to help us to survive this and that kind of thing. So we just started having almost daily conversations. And then also, you know, my dad and stepmom live abroad. So that was something that, you know, I was very much more kind of into. How you guys doing? And they locked down way harder than we did, and they stayed locked down way longer than we did. So I actually honestly felt good that they were there, because I felt like they were probably in a better, safer place. They had a plan for seniors, like they were the first to get the vaccine. I mean, they were just very, very strict about making sure that they were they had solidarity and they had like a plan.
Yeah,
it wasn't denial or we don't know if it's this or that. They were just like, we're going to make sure that we can do the best we can to keep people safe. So
yeah, that probably gave you good
it did. And then friends who were just like for comparing stories, and fortunately for me, I didn't have any close friends that got COVID initially. My husband did have some family that got it. And, I had later on, as time went on, I had more people that I knew who had were affected by and who passed away. So that was hard. Yeah.
Was there like a time you feel that you stepped in kind of to help someone affected by COVID? Like you were saying, like you had friends, family members like passed.
Yeah.
And you stepped in.
Yeah. For the most part, they were not local, so it was more like moral support, like supporting family. Like I have a family member who is almost like a second mom to me, godmother kind of thing, and like both her older siblings passed away. This was a couple years, like maybe a year and a half into it, but it was really, just really hard. So, she was all in New Jersey, so I wasn't able to physically go because at that time, travel. But it was, something that was, heavy on my mind, and just trying to be supportive and, that kind of thing. I didn't, do any volunteering directly with COVID. Although, I do think that I was just really trying to be encouraging that was probably my best way that I could support people, is just trying to be encouraging and like, we're going to get through this, and, just have to do the right thing and, keep supporting each other.
Definitely. Can you describe your experiences going out in public at like the height of the pandemic? Like what did it feel like wearing the mask? I know you said you started wearing masks early, or like gloves and stuff. What was your experience around that?
Yeah, I mean, I did exactly that. I just really was very serious. I never thought it was like a joke or, hoax or anything like that. So I just, made sure that I was masking up whenever I went. I was mindful of distance with people. I just tried not to, be in too close quarters with anybody that was like, even in a grocery store. I do think that, fortunately, I always felt like I didn't feel unsafe. Like I felt like I could go out, and I, didn't feel like I was going to get, COVID, especially if I was masked and other people were masked. Yeah. And, I really felt that, the stores where I shopped, people were very respectful and tried to be, mindful of that.
Good.
So yeah, I don't think I felt extremely nervous about. Probably, I know I was more open than like a lot of my family wouldn't even go out. Like they would just like only got deliveries. Right. I felt okay to just go and go to the store if I needed to.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think some challenges you faced during the pandemic were, and if there's any like long-lasting consequences from the pandemic? And yes, we're still in it.
But it's not to the same extent. I think some of the challenges were just, with my kids mentally. I mean, the anxiety of going from in person. My daughter especially, she just does not like online classes, and so that was challenging, and my son too, because they went online. He was trying to do math online and these science classes, and they were struggling. So that was probably just an immediate challenge within our family. But I think I just tried to help them realize that this is not going to be forever. My daughter ended up going part-time so that she wouldn't have to take all the classes online, which I think helped. And my son, I think he just, he tried to use his teacher resources, but it was hard. I mean, we made the decision because his school went back relatively, he went to a Catholic school, and so they went back relatively earlier than, a lot of the public schools did. And they gave students the choice of whether they wanted to be in person or stay online. And we made this decision to keep them online, which is hard. Socially, he's a senior. He's trying to be social with everybody. And he's kind of out of the loop because I'd say only 30% stayed online. The rest did go in person.
Okay. Now, what are some good things you feel like you've learned through your experience?
Yeah, resiliency. I think one of the things that, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was talking about, the world is going crazy, which, there's always been crime and disease and stuff like that. But I'm like, yeah. But I remember seeing this article, and it was back in early 1900s, when they were talking about how, there was the bubonic plague, and there was, all of these different diseases, and there was yellow fever, and there was, chicken pox, and all of these things, and it was going through all, so many different tragedies and stuff, and then it was and this too shall pass, that was the end of the article, that's how it kind of the headline, and I was like, yeah, we will survive this. We have survived so much as a human race. And I really loved how people did try to come together and be respectful. I especially loved how the recognition of, that so many people are underpaid and work very hard, and they don't really have the means or the benefits to be able to really take care of themselves, and that the wage, and so that became something that was people started. I started tipping and just making sure that people knew that we appreciated. They were certainly helping the public. They were the frontline workers, right? And then also, of course, the whole recognition of Black Lives Matter, and the whole, that there was a time when, the world was sitting still, when that whole, thing unraveled, and it was just really nice to see that, again, the recognition that there's a lot of stuff that's amiss in this country, and that we need to address it. So, that was one, and my kids we all did march in the Black Lives Matter in Charlotte, and so we did get involved on that level, and I think it was really powerful for them, because it was their first kind of entrance into politics in a kind of physical, visceral way, and so I think that did have lasting impressions. And I do think things have, I think there's just a lot more awareness, and I think companies are starting to realize that we live in a diverse world. We need to have everybody can contribute, and we need to support, because you think about all those communities that didn't have internet connection, and not just minority communities, but in the mountains, and where there are communities all over that are just not where they should be in a country as rich as this one, but as many resources that we have.
Yeah, so I never even thought about it like that. How has this, how's your life changed since March of 2020, and how has the experience shaped you as a person, and what do you think you've learned from your personal experience?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I also revealed that I went through a difficult divorce last year, over the process of a year. So it was interesting that having gone through the pandemic, and seeing that family. I mean, I think that it just became really relevant that the most important thing is family, and that you have support. And so I think that is what really kind of buoyed me to, be able to take the steps that I needed to take to get to my independence. And, I'm so much happier now, and just feel like I feel like, I don't know, I think I have more confidence because I just, having gone through something that is you know, we all experienced, but and everyone had their own personal experience. It just gave me some insight into how I kind of operate in a situation like that. You know, I never felt panicked. I never felt panicked. I always felt like, you know, even when they were talking about vaccinations and so forth, I just thought that, you know, things were going to get better. I didn't know how long they were going to take, but I knew that they were going to get better. So I think it did give me a kind of a self-awareness that a presence that I didn't really knew that I had possessed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm like, congrats on your independence.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
It is, it really is.
And also you said your soon-to-be husband, so congrats. That's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So, do you have any like additional stories or experiences you want to share about your COVID-19 experience?
You know, some specific examples. Oh gosh, I wish I'd thought about that. I mean, I know there were moments when I just saw, you know, random acts of kindness and people just trying to help each other. You know, I definitely think that, you know, I hope that we've gotten a little bit more just compassionate in general with people, and just I do feel like that. And Charlotte's always been, to me, a place that's easy to kind of get involved, easy to kind of access resources, easier than like where I came from, the New York, New Jersey area, which, you know, can be a little bit harder because there's so many people and so many ways to try and to get to what you want. You have to go through so many different paths, and here I think it's a lot more straightforward and easier. So, you know, I wish I could think of a specific, like, one thing that stands out, but I just felt like there were just glimmers of hope. You know, there were just, you know, there would be stories and, you know, oh, this is so great, and, you know, I'm so happy to hear that, you know, as a result, somebody came out, even, you know, they got closer, or they were able to find their family or reconnect and that kind of thing. I think that's, you know, really important. So,
That's awesome. That's basically it.
Cool.
So thank you for sharing with us. Thanks for sharing your stories with us. And I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.